Good morning to one and all. I, Mr. Veerbadrappa Mendugudli, Associate Professor, on behalf of Dr. Vittal Rao Vike Patil Foundation's College of Nursing, Ahmednagar, welcome you all for today's national webinar on challenges in healthcare delivery system in India during COVID-19 pandemic. Just briefing about our institution, Dr. Vittal Rao Vike Patil Foundation has located in Ahmednagar district in the state of Maharashtra. To begin with, I would like to introduce pioneers of our institution. Our inspiration, Honorable Dr. Vittal Rao Vike Patil, pioneer of sugar cooperative movement. He established Asia's first cooperative sugar factory in Loni, Ahmednagar, which was commissioned in 1950. He received Padma Shri Award in 1961 for his services to the nation. He was also he was a great visionary for higher education of rural people. Our founder, Chairman, Honorable Dr. Balasaheb Vike Patil, he was eldest son of Dr. Vittal Rao Vike Patil. As a founder, the Pravara Rural Education Society was established in 1964 at Loni in Ahmednagar district with the aim to provide a world-class education to the rural masses and empower the girl child. He received Padma Bhushan Award on 31st March 2010 for his outstanding work in the field of social work. And he also received Jeevan Sadan Gaurav Award from Pune University for lifetime achievement in the field of education and rural development in 2017. On 13th October 2020, Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi released autobiography of Dr. Balasaheb Vike Patil, which was titled Deha Vechwa Karni, which means dedicating one's life for noble cause, and is aptly named as he dedicated his entire life to the benefits of society. Honorable Namdas Sri Radhakrishna Vike Patil, the chairman of Dr. Vike Patil Foundation, member of Legislative Assembly Maharashtra, ex-minister of Government of India. He is the one because of whom we have reached at the position we are in right now, and ultimately placed with a positive reinforcement to maintain the vision and mission of our foundation. Honorable Dr. Sujay Vike Patil, our CEO and the torchbearer, member of the 17th Lok Sabha, representing Ahmednagar constituency, Maharashtra. He is the young and dynamic and inspiring leader we have with us, through whom we are able to achieve our overall development and quality. We are obliged to have a great and prosperous leadership of the straight, gentle, and visionary personalities who have always supported through many years down the line. They are the rock stable pillars of our institution from years. We are blessed to work under the broad umbrella of wisdom of retired Lieutenant General Dr. B. Sadananda Sir, who is the Secretary General of our foundation. He was commissioned in the Armed Forces Medical Sciences on 22nd January 1967 as lieutenant and reached the highest rank of Lieutenant General and retired after completing 38 years of service. During the service in the Armed Forces, he has held various prestigious professional, administrative, and academic appointments as Director, Operations Director, Standardization, Director, Quality Assurance, and has been Director of various multi-speciality and super specialty hospitals. Since retirement, he had served as a Director General of Vike Patil Institute of Medical Sciences from June 2005. Last but not least, we have added another gem in our guideline to structure our foundation qualitatively, who is none other than Professor Dr. Abhijit Dute sir, who is the Deputy Director of our foundation, the well-known Google scholar who has achieved his PhD degree in cardiovascular and respiratory sciences and currently working as Doctor of Physical Therapy. Now, I would like to introduce our today's national webinar chairperson. It will be a great pleasure and honor to introduce our today's chairperson, Dr. Pratibha Chandekar, Madam. Madam is principal of our esteemed institute of Dr. Vitalrao Vike Patil Foundation's College of Nursing, Ahmednagar. Madam has 33 years experience as nursing profession. Madam has worked as various levels of healthcare, was technically consultant in Swadeshi International Development Agency project at PIMS Loni. Madam was chairperson, panelist, resource person in regional, state, national, and international level conference. She has conducted training programs for nurses of various positions, and she has developed resource materials on first aid pocket booklet, female health voluntary model, nutritional health leaflet, ISM leaflet, pediatric nursing 5 models, and patient assistant course material. Madam has received Best Worker Award from KM Hospital, Mumbai on Foundation Day, 22nd January 1993, Mumbai. Madam has also received Shiksha Bharati Award by Indian Achievers Forum, 27th November 2007, New Delhi. Madam was felicitated for exemplary service in community health by CMC Vellore in 2008 at National Conference. Madam has recipient of Linus Palme Scholarship for Planning Faculty Students Exchange Program at Sweden's Skövde University in 2011. Madam was principal investigator to conduct evaluation of community-based monitoring of health services under NRHM, a state-level study in 5 districts of Maharashtra, 2012 state government funded project. Madam has published 18 research papers at national and international level. Now, so I warmly welcome you, Madam, for this today's webinar. I would like to request our respected principal, Dr. Pratibha Chandekar, Madam, to take over the session. Madam, please take over the session.
I welcome on behalf of Dr. all the participants and experts for today, the national seminar, which is in the form of webinar, challenges in healthcare delivery system. I am extremely sorry for delayed session. Now, health is a state issue. Our healthcare industry comprises public and private. I am sure all will agree the COVID-19 pandemic has spread over all. It has caused significant disruption and hardship. Nearly every aspect of our life, and especially in India, recorded more than 27 million cases of COVID-19, and the death toll is also very high. I salute the COVID partier frontline healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, technicians, supporting staff who selflessly risk their lives every day to serve others. I welcome once again for this national webinar on challenges in healthcare delivery system during COVID-19. As health is a state issue and our healthcare industry, which comprises public and private, I salute the COVID martyrs, frontline healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, technicians, supporting staff who selflessly risk their lives every day to serve others. The major challenges which are posed during this to the healthcare delivery system is the digital record, telehealth. Now, this also, there is a threat for cybersecurity and price transparency. Now, from e-governance, we have moved to m-governance. Many of the private general practitioners, they have closed their clinics and they have started SMS even for the appointments. Now mobile is in used. Now a challenge that is posed for the healthcare delivery system and even to us, the big data. So data analytic also is one of the important challenge, because the data driven decision making is there. And I would like to pose today a big challenge, that is epidemic response mechanism. We see helplessness and frustration for not being able to do anything was observed many times. A big challenge to physical infrastructure for making changes in COVID and non-COVID, manpower, health management, all these issues were a challenge. So aim of this webinar is mainly, we would like to prepare the healthcare workers, the nurses especially, preparedness for epidemic and pandemics. I'm sure for this topic, 1 hour is not sufficient. We will not be doing justice, but at least let us learn by these experts few aspects through these presentations. So to speak about the first speaker, Dr. Pradnya, my good friend, and she's been very well known active person in SOMI activity. This is how I met her, and she has a very good journey in nursing. She started with GNM and reached up to PhD, and also done LLB and presently pursuing LLM. We congratulate you, madam, and wish you all the best for your LLM studies. You started your nursing career as staff nurse, tutor, lecturer to the present post, that is Registrar of Gujarat Nursing Council. You played a very key role in editorial board for publication in Gujarat, also played a vital role in preparation of the module of strengthening midwifery practice for safe motherhood under NRHM. You played vital role in preparation of the magazine Journal of Advanced Health Informatics in Ahmedabad. You also guided UG, PG and PhD students, and you have organized many conferences, chaired scientific sessions, and very active role you have taken even in the Gujarat Council. We welcome you, madam. Our next speaker, a dynamic person, Mrs. Rachel George, who completed her BSc, MSc and LLB. On behalf of Dr. Vittal Rao Vikhe Patil Foundation, College of Nursing, madam, I welcome you. You also worked in different capacity in nursing, and presently you are having the charge of Registrar of Maharashtra Nursing Council. Before this, you have worked in this office as Deputy Registrar, and I love your vision to develop nurses at par excellence and to strive to attain the same by advocating for the upliftment of professional standards to those concerned.
You are a competent teacher, orator, and definitely motivational speaker, counselor, and enthusiastic entrepreneur. And you are in this post, definitely you have more to do to accomplish your vision for the nursing profession. You are associated with World Health Organization as an assessor for health science universities globally. And you are instrumental in successfully rolling out the nurse practitioners program in midwifery at an NMTI Wardha, Maharashtra, and you are an advisor to Directorate Health Services Maharashtra in planning and execution for successful implementation of nurse practitioner midwifery in Maharashtra. You are also advisor for Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, New Delhi. Yes, we welcome you, madam. Our next speaker, Dr. Anil Sharma, who is having doctorate in nursing, having years of experience, also lot of contribution in the research, and presently, sir, you are working as professor cum principal at Manik Kaka Topiwala Institute of Nursing, Charisar, Gujarat. Also, sir, you are presently as a secretary in Nursing Research Society of India. You have lot of contribution in the research for publication. So you are editor, member in many journals. Also, you have been done the project as principal investigator for 2 ICMR funded research projects, also 2 intramural research projects. You have published 40 research papers and you have chaired many scientific sessions. So we welcome you, sir, once again. Our next speaker is a PhD scholar, Mrs. Prachi Dharak. I know her as a person who is with sincerity, dedication, person with integrity and passion for nursing profession. Always smiling and very confident. She is action oriented. She is graduate and postgraduate from NT College of Nursing, SNDT Women's University, and presently she is doing PhD in LT College of Nursing, SNDT Women's University. She has worked in different capacity as staff nurse, tutor, and presently as principal at Sauminatai Thakre Institute of Nursing Education, Thane. She has published paper and also her contribution working with NGOs in many activities. She is presently Secretary TNI Maharashtra State Branch, and under that banner she is conducting many activities in TNI. Also her contribution, she actively participated as coordinator in conducting RCH Phase 1 training for LHV, ANM, MPW for male and female in Thane district. Also, in collaboration with UNFPA, actively participated in conducting DIE training program and as health team member in disaster management during 26 July 2005 flood in Thane in collaboration with CSM Hospital Karwa, she has actively participated. So she has arranged many conferences, workshops, health melas, exhibitions, and rallies. Also, she writes in newspaper article about nursing profession. So we have all versatile, dynamic personalities who will embark on the challenges posed to the healthcare delivery system during this pandemic. So I welcome to speak by Dr. Prajna Dhabi. Thank you.
We are meeting on this platform. I'm very happy that you have selected such a wonderful topic. It is a need of the era, and really I congratulate all the team members. Now talking about the challenges, I will not go with the data. We all are knowing that how cases are increasing day by day, and enormous challenges we are facing. So as a healthcare worker, also we are facing many challenges. First and foremost challenge for us, that is the infrastructure. If we talk about the data, in India, there is 0.55 bed per 1,000 population is available. Now we can think that how we can manage this large proportion of COVID patients. So first is the infrastructure problem. And then at the initial stage, what happened that this disease was new for all of us. We don't know how it is, transmitting, what is the treatment protocol and all. So there were government guidelines and it was keep changing. So we need to, ourselves updated with new guidelines, new protocol and all. So it was also a very big challenge for us. Apart from that, the one big problem that was the manpower management. So, anyhow, we have managed infrastructure, we have increased the beds, but how, suddenly we can increase the doctors, nurses, and other healthcare workers? It is not possible at all. So it was also a very big challenge for us. In Gujarat, we have utilized nursing teachers and principals for clinical side. So our principals have worked as a nursing superintendent. Our teachers also have worked as a supervisor and all. And I'm very happy that they have worked very nicely and they have, managed as far as, as whatever they can do, they have done very nicely. So for that manpower management, we did this, that we have utilized our, faculties in the clinical side. Further, we need to give the training to our staff nurses for infection prevention and control. So government and as well as Gujarat Nursing Council has initiated for this, and we have trained our staff nurses, our teachers through the digital medium. Talking about the hospital information management system, it was really need of the era, because many patients are admitting, many patients are getting discharged, transfer from the ward. And at that time, if there is no effective this information system, then it will be very difficult. Now, one challenge with us was that who will entering the data, how this system will be managed, and all of us know that all the work are, accepted by this. Nurses are expected to do. So there need to the nurses' role is expanded. They have to give care to the patients, all records and reports. Apart from that, this HIMS system need to be managed by the nursing staff. So it was also very big challenge for us. So what we did, that we simplified this HIMS system. We had meeting with the web person and we trained staff nurses for this HIMS system. We also, argued with the authority that this work is to be done by the data entry operator instead of staff nurses. Then one more challenge with us was shortage of ventilator. We required many ventilators, but we did not have that much ventilator. Then we purchased these ventilators, but what happened that we all know to give comprehensive care to the patient with ventilator is it required specific skills. So we need to have a trained and skillful and competent person to render the care to the nursing to the patients. And then drugs. We all know that there was a market of remdesivir injections. Now previously there were no criteria. There was a one treatment. It was like that. That this is the treatment. That is the injection remdesivir. So what happened? There was a black market of these injections due to lacking in the criteria whether patients is required or not required. There was a prescription of this injection. It was also happened that injections prepared from normal saline and dextrose, and it was in the market. So this is really a very strange thing happened in this scenario. Then now we are facing post-COVID mucormycosis. Again, we are saying that there is a immunity is low of this COVID patient. Apart from this, we are giving them steroids. So ultimately, again, there is a depletion in the immunity system, and because of that, there are increasing in the mucormycosis cases. Same happened with the injection with this mucormycosis. Again, there is a scarcity of these injections, and we are having this challenge also. Talking about the oxygen supply, many patients died due to the lacking of this oxygen supply. So this was also a very big challenge for the healthcare system. Then management of dead bodies and funeral. There was a huge line at the graveyard. So how to manage this all, that was again a very big challenge for us. We cannot forget this psychological crisis. There is a psychological crisis in public as well as in the healthcare worker. There are fear in the public about this COVID-19, and their fear is also not wrong, but it affects the psychological mental health of the public. We are also a human being as a healthcare worker, so we are facing the same problem. We are seeing the patients daily, we are seeing the death, so it affects also it affects our family members too. So because of that, there is a burnout among the staff nurses and healthcare worker. We can also hearing that there are strikes of doctors, nurses, and all. So this is one kind of burnout of our healthcare worker. We need to address this also. We need to listen them also. Their psychological health is also being affected. One more thing, what happened that the community understand that if they migrate to the rural area, then there will be the less chances of transmission of disease. So there is a migration from urban to rural. Now what happened that as our healthcare system, there is less focus in rural area and more focus on the urban area. So they migrated to the rural area, but they are not getting treatment as they are getting in the urban area. So whenever they are getting infected or any symptoms are there, again they need to transfer to the urban area. So one more challenge is our fragmented healthcare services. Then vaccination. Again, previously there was the myth that whether to take a vaccination or not, people were in dilemma. So in the first phase, it was decided that vaccination is to be given to the healthcare worker. Now, government need to, we in Gujarat have conducted 4 webinars to motivate our nurses, to motivate our nursing students to get themselves vaccinated. So that is again one challenge for us. Then role of media, social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and all. There are many fake, news in this social media, and again, it is a big challenge for us. We know that before 2 or 3 days, there was one fake news that whoever you vaccinated, they will die within 2 years. So this type of messages are circulated, and again, this will be the challenges for us. So I think these are the challenges we all have faced, and we try to manage it because this condition is new for us, and it is really a challenging for us to manage infrastructure, to manage manpower, psychological crisis, and all. There is something good also in bad situations. So we have learned also many things. So one is the digital platform. We learn digital platform. We learn how to teach through this digital mode, how to learn with this digital medium. So, now we are learning this virtual life. We are interacting with virtual mode. So this is what we have learned. Then something, we understand the value, importance of our lungs, importance of oxygen, importance of trees. We also learn value of life. We understand that life is unpredictable. We have seen many patients die in front of us. Our nurses, our doctors, they are victim of this COVID-19. And it makes us understand that how the life is, what is the value of life. It is totally unpredictable, and we need to focus on valuable aspects in our life. We need to, do the good things. So our life is really a valuable one. So that we learn in this COVID. Then one more thing we learn is that how to live with limited resources. During lockdown, restaurants are closed, cinema are closed, and we learn that how to, live with this limited resources. One more thing we learn is that we learn yogas, we learn pranayam, we learn and we recall our Ayurvedas, we adopt our Ayurveda. So this is all the things we have learned in these challenges. I will say that there is nothing is permanent except change. So we also are hoping that there will be the change. We have a good hope that we will come out from this crisis very soon. So with this note, I end my session, and thanks a lot for organizer for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Pradnya. You have highlighted many aspects, and there are the realities and there are many rumors, right? And then it is very difficult to manage in this COVID situation suddenly to increase manpower. Maybe physical infrastructure, it is possible somehow, like how many tents, many schools, everything was taken, but manpower was a big challenge. So I'm sure the other speakers also will highlight and may suggest few more things. Okay, so now I welcome Madam Rachel George. I have already introduced you. You were not there to listen. Maybe, I don't know, you left and you again joined. So I welcome Madam Rachel George for this webinar and to embark on this big challenging topic, that is the challenges faced in healthcare delivery system due to this COVID-19. Before you speak, once again, Dr. Pradnya, thank you so much for giving your precious time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. My pleasure.
Yeah. Yes, over to you, Madam Rachel.
Very good afternoon to all the eminent speakers. Dr. Pradnya, whom I know very personally, Madam Prachi Dharab, whom again I know, and other speakers I'm yet to understand, and I might hear for some time. Welcome you all on this platform in Maharashtra. And I could not refuse Madam Chandekar, who has been my examiner during my masters. She is one person. Before I start my talk, I'll just tell one word about her. She is one examiner in front of whom I went with a lot of confidence. Confidence का CONFIDNC पूरा कूट के हम में ही भरे है. ये सोच के हम गए थे मैडम के सामने for the Viva. Madam made me realize in 10 minutes that where I stand. It was to 0.0 because she had all the questions except what was there in the books. What was not there in the books was all her questions. That's when I realized I've got a lot to learn from ma'am. So ma'am, thank you for this opportunity. You found me eligible to speak on such a big topic, which has given us sleepless nights. At the outset, before we start our talk, I do not know it was talked in the beginning or not, but a moment of silence to express our gratitude to all our nurses and other healthcare workers whom we have lost to this battle of COVID-19. As per ICN records, January 2021, we have lost 2,710 nurses. I can rather say the COVID warriors who sacrificed their lives to keep us alive. So a moment of silence. Next. I salute my nurses who are even now when I'm speaking, they are now in their best foot forward, donned in their PPEs, contributing their very best in saving this mankind. Thank you is just not a word for you, my dear nurses. I thank you, or I have to say thank you, which comes from my heart, for keeping us alive, for keeping us safe. Today, marriages, parties are not an occasion to celebrate. There is no marriages are happening, parties are, I do not know whether. Being alive is the occasion. Being alive is the occasion to celebrate. I am from a city which is known as a city of dreams, a city which never sleeps. I do understand that this major lifestyle, the new normal lifestyle changes have affected us in a major way. But as Dr. Pragna rightly said, we need a very little to be alive, to be happy. This is what the previous from 2019 we have been learning, or rather we can say 2020, we started this thought that it's very little we need to be alive. Here it's curfew. I hope in many other states also, I do not know, we have international participants in this hearing. But here in Maharashtra and many parts of India, we have curfew. But if a person like me is going to read it, it would be care for you. It's just temporary. Curfew can be read as care for you. This time will also pass. The theme for this year, the International Year Nurses Day 2020, we never thought that it would so rightly be implemented, or it would just come the way it was meant to be, or how and who visualized it, that it would be the year of nurses. Nurses were the voice to lead. This just came true. It just started. Nobody had to conduct any function. Nobody had to conduct any special conference or webinars to just tell this to the world or spread it to the world that nurses are the voice to lead. I've heard many doctors saying this during this COVID. It would not have been possible without my team of nurses. PPE, I went during 2020, I had to don a PPE to visit some patients. There was some 10 minutes in that PPE, I could not. My nurses are donned 8 hours. If there are no nurses reporting for the next duty, they're continuing. What are they made of? What are we made of? I'm really forced to think about this. There are many issues which I faced, because in this whole day of talk, I think many issues will be focused in different perspectives. But as an administrator, what I faced, some of the major issues. Nursing issues or the nurses' problems, I would definitely touch on it. But then what as an administrator faced was vacant chairs in the top positions. Nurses at the high end, like the chairs at the high end of nursing officials under the state government, are vacant even now. Ad hoc charges are being given. Definitely, the chairs are being occupied, but it is supposed to be filled by this position is for a nurse. And for our redressal, our problems which has to be redressed, a nurse has to sit on the chair. The seat is not filled. This created an absence, of leadership with the nurses could not, they did not know whom to approach, whom to voice out their problems to. This resulted in mismanagement in channelizing the human resources of nursing personnel. Nurses were overworked. This is during the first phase, the starting phase, what we faced is. Nurses were overworked. No workload was so much. They were exposed to infections. There were inadequate PPEs and deficient SOPs in handling the nursing human resource. Did not know. Everyone was new to it. After say about 100 years, this was 100 years before that we faced such a pandemic. And just after that Spanish flu, this is something which has come and people are not prepared. So there was no proper SOPs which could be developed. Though I can say center has played a big role. MOHFW with Dr. Rati Balchandran as a nursing advisor, she has taken a lot of efforts, I have to say, on this platform. She had taken a lot of efforts in creating SOPs, in creating training sessions. But then, unless it is implemented state-wise, there are people on the top position who could implement it. It will not be implemented effectively. I sitting on this chair in the council, I need parallel top nursing personnels whom we can have meeting with. So whatever criteria it is, nurses, I feel, should voice out and come forward and show their capability in chairing that position. This delayed response towards the issues faced by the nurses. Nurses had a lot of issues, but as there was no competent authority to address them, this related to problems which was disclosed in the media, which would be the last thing I would appreciate. No. Which again led to administrative tussles between nurses and immediate top bosses, wherein suspensions of nurses were, not ruled out. A lot of issues wherein there was this miscommunication. Non-engagement of nurses, second problem. Non-engagement of nurses in the COVID-19 task force. My dear nurses, we contribute to 80% of the healthcare team. 80%. As we say, if doctors are the brain of the hospital, we are the heart of the hospital. We are the heart of the healthcare. But we were the nurses were not included in the task force, which led to undirectional approach in dealing with the pandemic. There was absolute ignorance to the nursing approach. That is what I have seen. My nursing leaders could tell that. Communication. Communication lacked inclusiveness of nurses placed at various levels from the grassroots. Again, there was direct, authentic communication was not there, which created panic and chaos among the nursing cadres. And this led to directionless and gross approach towards the problem solving by the highly placed nursing officers. I could not get through the nurses at the grassroots, though we had opened the channels of communication. Though on the council website we had given, even it was made possible that my personal phone numbers were shared on the website, that any nurse facing any issue during the COVID, please get in touch. But my nurse has to know that she has to look at the website. I was available. Yes, I did get, I can say that we had a very good response from the nurses who knew that they are associated with us. They did contact us. There were issues which were resolved. But the main communication pattern, the line of communication which has to be there is not established. Scarcity. Every second day. Rachel, can you give us nurses? From commissioner to director. Where do I bring nurses from? Initially, when the pandemic, as the pandemic hit the state, human resources registered nurses. Scarcity was there in the PPE kits. There was no material. There was no money, there is insufficient funds were allotted for the capacity building of nurses. Later, from the center, a lot of training programs which were taken up, and it was resolved through the digital platforms, as Madam Pragya rightly said. Our nurses got used to this, and in-house training. Many hospitals. I was so happy when I had a couple of meetings with the nurse leaders of various hospitals, wherein they said, Madam, we're having in-house trainings. Nurses are coming out with doubts. And this was something new, a digital platform and in-house trainings which were there. But scarcity was always there. Even today, it is there. Inadequate training of nurses, nursing personnel in dealing with pandemic and other associated complications. Complications, as it's rightly said, every new day, there is something else coming up. It was the same for the vaccination. Did not know what are the consequences. Yahan tak ki now they are asking which one to take. If you take this, you live for 5 years. If you take this, you live for 2 years. All the WhatsApp and the Facebook universities, which has no base. There are good doctors who have already said, even though after the taking of vaccination, there are people who have been affected. It is not 100% remedy. Yes, we do agree. But there have been instances that the symptoms were mild. So better, what would be better? Definitely taking the vaccine, preparing the nurses for taking the vaccine, preparing the students. Very recently, we came to know that in this year in Maharashtra, we have around 12,000 candidates. It's an approximate figure. 12,000 candidates who have passed ANM, GNM, and BSc nursing. And in my council, the registration application which are received are just 4,130, to be very precise, till 2 days back. 4,000. It is this fear of the unknown, even now, which is there. Do not know how to take up. Parents may not. We cannot blame. This is, I do not know where we are falling short, because whatever is shown in this WhatsApp and other social medias, the fear is created among the nursing personnel, other healthcare personnel, I can say, not only nursing personnel. Students are getting delayed. They do not want to come and register. And without registration, you cannot work. This is a really big concern. Compromised academics of the nursing students. We are so rich with our academics. This 4 years of ours, mind-boggling. But because of this pandemic, the students are not equipped with all the knowledge. So when they are going to come out, they are already placed as clinical nurses, many of the areas where there is scarcity of nursing personnel. But as we know, all the subjects which are there in these 4 years are just minimum for us to enter the field of nursing after we pass out, which is compromised. They're not getting their exposure as in mental health, in pediatric, in gynecology and obstetrics, in community. So what are the products which are going to come out? What are the future nurses? This is a concern which keeps rolling in our heads for some time now. We thought everything will come back to normal, but it's taking time. Issues related to absconding nurses. Many hospitals had to tell this. We had got a lot of complaints in the council. Madam, take action. These nurses have absconded. But why? When I sit, and I and my deputy registrar, we both sit taking any complaints. The question first thing is, why? Because we both are nurses sitting here. We know why. Why that nurse is mentally fit. But why did she leave? Why did she abscond without telling you? Her grievances were taken care. As an HR, as a hospital authority, as a doctor, did we actually know what are the reason? No, they didn't cite any reasons. No, it's highly unacceptable to us. And when I want to find out the nurse, she will not call me or she will not accept my call because she's scared that what will be the next action. She didn't open her mouth here. She was not allowed. So this were some of the issues which we actually faced. Now, globally, what are we going to face? Globally, what is the concern? What is there in our heads? Stress and burnout among nurses. This is a very important issue, my dear nurses. Many professional organizations and associations, including TNAI and UNA and many other associations, they are taking care that they open up various channels. There is an prediction that ICN has already termed this scenario as mass traumatization of the nursing workforce globally. Mass traumatization. There is this high workload, post-traumatic stress, increase in violence and discrimination, a lot of everyday seeing deaths. No, this is something not normal. We cannot accept one death. We see one death in our building or wherever we stay or somewhere in our vicinity or in our relation. It keeps haunting for at least 3 to 4 days. Imagine every second day, every second minute or third minute, they are seeing deaths. Is it normal? Serious thoughts need to be given about this. Presently, various helplines are available where there is a psychologist who can, where counseling can be sought. There are psychiatrists who are available free online. But the truth is, will my nurses be able to come out and voice that they need help? They also might be thinking this is the new normal way. This is the new normal life, new normal. Families of these nurses, they play a vital role. Immediate families, yes, the husband or parents or children, they are there. But my nurse spends her maximum portion or a good time of her day in dealing with the patients. So we are the family. We play a big role in supporting them, in counseling them. Recently, when I had called a nurse to inquire about one of the patients whom I know, she told me about that patient. The next moment, she burst into tears, emotional outburst. It's scared. It's scary. She's crying. She doesn't know. She's saying, "Ma'am, it's not normal, ma'am. It's not. I'm not feeling normal." ICN estimates that COVID-19 effect added to the current shortage of these nurses and aging of the workforce will lead to a shortfall of around 13 million nurses by 2030. We are not far. 8 years down the line or 9 years down the line, 13 million nurses. How to encourage? We need more nurses in the pipeline, my dear nurses. How to encourage the younger profession or younger children or the next generation to take up nursing. There are some issues you may say that, ma'am, the general problems what we face. Ma'am, what is the status? What is the pay scale? What is the growth? What is the career progression? Where we go from here? These are some issues which do not attract the present generation into nursing. Yes, majority would come up with these issues. Status? What is status? We are not looked upon as we have to be. What we do not get the status, what we are supposed to, what kind of work we are doing. We are giving in all our 8 hours of work, 12 hours of work. Status comes with confidence. Confidence comes with knowledge. CNEs, the ongoing trainings, the education, the ongoing education modules which are going on. Equip yourself. Everything will be taken away from you. Your property, your bank balance, your everything. Your family, your relatives, whatever. This everything can be taken materialistic. One thing which will go with you till your last breath is your knowledge. We are already equipped with this confidence. Our teachers try and equip us with this knowledge during our basic education, the 4 years of training. That we are at loss today. Our nurses are not getting, our students are not getting all the education. So when they come out, the responsibility falls on our shoulders as nurse leaders to take care and mold them. In every scenario, they will get molded, 100% sure. Once they've taken up the profession of nursing, definitely, I can vouch for that. These are some things. Then what about career progression? Look at Madam Chandekar. Look at people who have taken up. Look at Prachi Dharup Madam. Even we're trying to go ahead. There is something called as midwifery-led clinics, nurse practitioners in midwifery. One of the greatest initiative by ministry. Individually practiced independent midwifery, a major role in achieving sustainable development goals, SDG. Nurses are going to be playing a key role. These are some things which are coming up. Yes, you definitely have career progression, my dear nurses. It falls on our shoulders to encourage generation into nursing. We can improvise on the way of teaching. Have you ever seen, I think I have teachers among this group of hearing. Have you seen a difference between a MBBS graduate and a BSc nursing graduate or a nursing graduate? What is the major difference? Till 12th standard, all the education, MBBS person who wants to go to MBBS or an engineering or a nursing or a physiotherapy or any other disciplines. Everybody has same education till 12th. So what happens after this 4 years of training? Or for the other graduates, say what 5 years, 4 to 5 years. What happens? What is the major difference? We are so much burdened with our curriculum. We forget the word ask to imbibe in our students. Ask. ASK. Ask is not one. Always seek knowledge. ASK. Inculcate that in our students. Things will change. As one thing which does not remain constant, change. Things will change. Scenarios will change. I'm called as a motivational speaker. This motivation doesn't come from books. No. It comes from experience. I have to be the change what I want to see in the world. I cannot expect others to change if I do not take the first step. It has to start from me. So it is the time that we shoulder this responsibility of changing the scenario. With this COVID, a lot of things have changed in our lives. I do agree to it, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we look towards that. Our next challenge would be if the third wave hits, because as it is heard, it would be affecting the pediatric group. And sadly, we do not have the task force of nurses, which we very recently with Prachi Dharup Madam also we had a discussion about this. We do not have nurses equipped to handle the children, the future of this nation. So that responsibility is like we are trying to shoulder it in a major way. We need to think about it. think about the emotional outburst in our nurses, be a support to them, encourage our nurses to come out of this situation. Things are getting under control. Vaccinations are the only way out because we do not know what is there in future. We cannot predict. But the grass is not greener on the other side. It is green where you water it. So let us hope what is best, and the journey of this 1,000 miles which will be covered by us starts with the first step, and we contribute to that step. Today the world is definitely going through tough times, but the tough times will never last. Tough times will never last, but tough people will do. And you and me belong to those cadre of people. So I agree to talk to my nurses, madam, because I talk to one nurse, it means I'm talking to one hospital. I talk to one nurse, I'm talking to 100 students whom she will give my message to. That's the reason I could not refuse talking on behalf of council. So I end my quote with a word, a line, which is very much applicable for people like Chandigarh madam. Live as if you are going to die tomorrow, because that is the world we are living in. That's the situation. Live as if we are going to die tomorrow, and learn as if we are going to live forever. Thank you. Jai Maharashtra.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much. You really made such a good difference, and I'm so happy to see you after such a long time. I saw you as a student, but now to hear you on this platform, and really, you made a difference. As you are said, you are a motivational speaker. You really motivated. I'm sure you have touched many people, and really,
Thank you.
it was a pleasure to hear from you.
Proud
And
to be a nurse, ma'am. Proud to
yeah,
be a nurse.
absolutely, absolutely. And as you brought up so many issues, really, and there will be many shortage of nurses, and we really have to think over this, because you address mainly the human resource, that is the nursing aspect mainly, right? That was a very big challenge everywhere, and now
Shortage.
I think we all should focus now. The hospitals also, the nursing directors, even nursing college teachers, we all have to now really stress for the third wave, for the pediatric, the group, because BSc and GNM, we are just first level nurses. But then to tackle the pediatric aspect, so even the facility, the preparation, how to handle all these are big
Small
challenge.
dosage, madam. In adult, we can afford to even make a mistake. In children, the dosage you cannot.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a big challenge, and I hope everyone will take note of this, and then we should be prepared for coming any aspect. We should really learn the lessons from this past experience that we are going through past 1 year, more than a year. Okay.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you so much on behalf of Dr. Vittal Ravi K. Patil Foundation College of Nursing
Thank you, ma'am.
for giving your precious time and help, giving motivational speech and enlightening on this topic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. Now I welcome Dr. Anil Sharma. Dr. Anil Sharma, please. Once again, I welcome you, sir. And please, you can. Do you have any slides, sir?
No, I don't. I'll be happy to speak live.
Yes, absolutely. You are welcome, sir. Please.
Thank you so much for inviting me here at this platform and allowing me to share my views on challenges which we all are facing in this era. I must say before starting and before sharing my views that every challenge has a hidden opportunity. So right now we all are facing a lot of challenges. And I say that on 11th of March 2020, when WHO have declared COVID-19 as a pandemic, everyone have faced, and especially the healthcare system. When we see the healthcare system, because the majority of the healthcare system falls under the public health. And if you can strengthen that public health, means your majority of the work can be completed. So my previous speakers, Dr. Pragna and Dr. Rachel, have beautifully stated about the manpowers, because this is one of the major challenge we all are facing. So I'll just skip this part of talk, that how this manpower need to be arranged, because both of them have so beautifully stated about the manpower. But I must say that during this whole scenario, the biggest challenge which the healthcare delivery system is facing is losing the ethical part of it. Now, what is this ethical part? If you see the real statistic, then I say the corona, of course, we all are worried about corona. It gave a lot of mental stigma, a lot of mental pressure to every one of us. But at the same time, what about the other chronic diseases? When you see the kidney diseases, you will find every year there are more than 2.5 lakh cases of dialysis patients that need to be treated. So during this whole scenario of pandemic, we have just missed out. There is a statement in the very beginning of when this pandemic intensified from the hospitals that till you will not feel the very serious symptoms, please don't move to the hospitals. They were differing the treatment of the chronic diseases. They were differing the treatment of the acute diseases. Let us say there are a lot of cases we have received when we saw there are a medical emergency, there are an accident, but we are not finding the blood because the lockdown and every manpower is focused on the COVID. So this was a very great challenge I faced, and I consider it apart from this all, because the healthcare, the medical profession, the nursing profession are known for their ethics. So we have just compromised somehow in those ethics to consider it. There was a case study which has been published by the Bangalore, where a well-reputed oncology hospital have just denied to treat the chemotherapy patient and said that if you can able to postpone it for 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks, then please try to postpone it. Is this by this way? I think we have to think it twice that where we are moving. Then, if I'll say further, then the safety of healthcare professionals is one of the biggest challenge. We lost so many of our warriors. Dr. Rachel have very specifically mentioned about how many nurses we lost during this pandemic. Even the doctors and many of paramedical and allied health professionals have been lost. Their lives are lost, and the more important part, the safety, the stigma they have faced. All of you might have seen in the news that in the beginning of pandemic, when it started, especially from April 2020 to July 2020. Our nurses were, when they were there in the hospital, their neighbors, their family members were just giving them a threat that please don't come to the house back. You remain there. And there are a lot of such cases that we have seen. So safety of our professionals was a big threat at that time. And even today, because especially in the beginning, we were struggling with the resources. We were not having the proper educated PPE kit even. So how our nurses and the doctors and other healthcare professionals have worked in that scenario. So that's the reason the solidarity have come out with the WHO, and everyone have worked in that line. Because I said in the beginning, every challenge brings some opportunity. So we have seen in the past 1.5 years that how best the all other segments of our societies are working together. Either you take it defense, either you take it the police, or else any profession you identify, they all have worked. Even the education field, you see the teachers, how best they have worked for, along with the nurses, along with the doctors. In public health segment, they work like in anything. There are a lot of teachers who lost their life during this period because they were medically illiterate. Definitely they were medically illiterate, but still they handled the situation so beautifully. So that's a challenge and the opportunity that how best we can able to merge our skills along with. Then next, if I'll say the one of the biggest challenge which I found is how to distribute the medical resources among the COVID patients. Recently in the second wave, we have seen that the situation in some of the metropolitan cities was so worst. Even how to manage the oxygen was a big point for all of us, where we have never thought of that this kind of a situation will come. So how to manage the medical resources, how to distribute those medical resources, how to distribute the resources within COVID and non-COVID patient was again a challenge. And then the things, again, I'll say the ethics of the healthcare professionals fall in picture. So we have to be take care of this thing very seriously. Even the situations are not so in our favor, where we can say that we are satisfied with the thing what the healthcare delivery system have made here. The next important, I think Dr. Pragna have said about the fungus, which is recently is there, and it, as in complication, there are a lot of post-COVID complications we have seen. We were not prepared for it. We must say that the healthcare system was definitely not prepared, because the manpower, when it was shorting, there was some compromise in the skillful people have been made, and then the negligence in the adequate healthcare was arrived. Now that is the very simple case of fungus that you can see when you are using dry oxygen, or when you are using a compromised water for the humidifying oxygen, or the steroids have been given to the diabetic patients. That wasn't completely out of understanding that why such situations are happening, and that have created a lot of this fungus issues. And then the pharmaceutical thing, the drugs unavailability have created an havoc among all of us. There are a lot of our known people every day, they do call, we want this medicine, remdesivir, as the madam said. Now for antifungal, there is no availability of the medicines across. So these all are the big challenges we all are facing around. How to compromise with this all, we don't know, because again, the resources are very compromised, and one of the biggest problem is the healthcare institutions are limited in a very populated country. We are second highest in the population, but at the same time we have very limited healthcare facilities. But still, that's an opportunity that the governments have done a wonderful job everywhere. In every institute, in every state, they have consulted with the people and identify the best place how to accommodate the patients, either COVID, or even some of the hospitals have arranged for the non-COVID as well. So that's one of the challenge we all are facing. Then I next further, as I said, the chronic disease mismanagement, or you can say the delayed rate for handling the medical emergencies or the acute conditions. This has again created a lot of havoc in there. The mental pressure or the mental illness have created a lot of things. There was a study, the systematic review we have seen. In that, they have said the majority of the lockdown impact caused the psychiatric illness. We have seen that, and there is no handling of this. We have just ignored it. There was nothing. We were not prepared for it. Our hospitals are not prepared for it. And we all have faced this issue. Our families have faced this issue during lockdown, that how to handle this all. And now when we are at the verge of completing of the second wave and the beginning of the third wave, the situations are even critical. We are not able to handle it, but how best we are going to catch these situations. Meeting the manpower by skillful or the semi-skilled people can be manageable under observation, but how to handle the other situations other than the COVID is really a challenging situation for us. Then justifying the rumor, my God, this is something very unique one. How to justify the rumors which is there prevailing in the society? How best we are going to handle those rumors? We don't know. Seriously, we don't know. When people are saying something bad about the vaccination, you might have experienced when the vaccine started in the month of January, and for the healthcare professionals, they have opened it first time. People were saying a lot of rumors about the vaccination. There was a death was there, important you will become if you take the medicine, this vaccine. So there were lots and lots of rumor have been created. But over the period of the time when the second wave have hit India in a very intensified way, then everyone have realized, oh, this vaccine is a kind of a sanjeevani for all of us. And then the people started rushing toward it. And that's the situation you can see now. You are not getting the proper vaccines availability isn't really a challenging now, because everyone have understood this. Yes, we need to have a vaccine, and all age group are started. Third wave we were talking about, Rachel have said very clearly the third wave, the most danger part is our children. Of course, I must say I should thank to God that in first two waves, anyhow we could save our children. Anyhow, because that two waves have saved our, the youngest generation. if they could be affected in the very first or second wave, I think this disaster could be unimaginable. Like it could be, kind of where the people are dying like in anything. Because children are the most vulnerable population in our country, in every country. And if you can save them, that is the real challenge. So right now, we have to create such a situation, such resources where we can able to save. The good news is around today, we have seen that the vaccines are available for under 12. They said that for the pediatric children more than 12 years of age can also take the vaccine, and this is also very good efficacy rate they have shown to it. Then there was, as I said in the beginning again, that it created an opportunity as well. So what is an opportunity we found in these challenging situations? Number one, the telehealth. Telehealth or telemedicine, the concept is very old. Of course, we all know that telehealth, telemedicine, telenursing. But during this 1.5 years, the telehealth is getting grasped like in anything. People are met toward it. There are a lot of NGOs have come up who have started this. But again, this is also one of the challenges we found under the telehealth, that recently I'll share one of the research which we did recently in our nearby villages. We wanted to start the telehealth program for our locality, like nearby villages. So we thought, let me have some preliminary research on that. Have to understand by through a formative research that how best we can able to get this services for these people. When we saw, then we found that only 40% of the people are using the online services in near villages. And out of 40%, again, only 20% were having the internet. It was very surprising to all of us that how could. So when we are so much in the limited in the other resources, then how we are going to hit the telehealth? How we are going to utilize this telehealth or telemedicine? This is really unimaginable for all of us. But I must say that this is an opportunity. In the mega cities, people are taking advantage of telehealth, telemedicine, and the online delivering of the medications is again one of the important part. Everyone of us are looking for an online that people can deliver the medications at our doorstep, and then some people are working. And regarding to one of the challenge which I have seen across during this time in the public health is managing the healthcare professionals, that how we are going to manage them. What is the way that we can make them at a very safer side? There were people who were, there were very nominal cases we have seen who have spoiled the profession, but there are n number of cases who have made proud to all the situation. It's not only about caring the COVID patients, it's also about how to handle those cases at the community level, how to handle those cases and the most important part, we have certainly missed the ASHAs, who are really contributing at very high level during the entire period of pandemic. I've seen that ASHAs are working day and night here. They were extensively involved by the public health department, and they were asked to take care of how to prevent this all situations. And the alternative system of medicine is also one of the important part, which we have taken care very seriously during this part of pandemic. We have seen that how Ayurveda, how Unani and other homeopathy even have contributed towards it. The statistic shows that in the public health that majority of the primary health centers are run by the Ayush doctor. Majority, like it has to be, there must be a medical officer, but because of the scarcity of the medical professionals, unfortunately those are run by the Ayush doctors, and they have done wonderful job during this entire period of pandemic, this entire period of COVID. They day and night they are there to handle the cases, because the first time it so happened that everyone is working towards it. Everyone is taking care of the patients there. The first, when anyone have a symptom, they used to move to the primary health center or the sub center, and without even having the PPE kit, they were not afraid with anything, and they have handled the situation so well. We have seen here in the public health that our doctors, Ayush doctors, and all our nurses, the primary health nurses or the community health nursing, they all have worked from shoulder to shoulder, and they have trying to come up from this situation. Even now, because the vaccination rate, if you see, again very challenging. We have only just crossed the 20 crore of vaccine in a populated country of 140 crore. Though the percentage is very low, but if you see, then almost 5 crore of people have covered both the vaccines. They have taken both the doses, I mean. And remaining 15 is approximately they have taken the first dose. But on paper, this is, if you see, then, but there were a statistic which shows that what is the wastage rate of the vaccine. But if you see the real picture on the ground, you will find the wastage rate is only about 0.1%. Because on paper it is around 2%, and some of the states have shown more than 2%. But our healthcare professionals are taking it very seriously. They do give this vaccine to the needy people, though there is no paper for them. But yes, they are utilizing these vaccines so carefully so that even the single drop of vaccine should not go in the wastage. And that's how we all are accepting these challenges in this tough time of COVID. I think I should stop here because already 1:15. So thank you so much, Viresh and team, for giving me this opportunity to share my little views on this topic.
Thank you, Dr. Anil Sharma. As you are a research-oriented person, and I really appreciate your efforts, and you have taken effort to find out. And the ground reality is so important in the public healthcare delivery system, right? We are all the time talking only about the tertiary care level or super specialty, multi-specialty hospitals. But the ASHA, the topic which you have brought out, really the ANMs who were working in the primary health center, sub-center level, they have done a tremendously excellent job. And we really need to appreciate and take note over this. And alternative medicine, these aspects you have really brought out. Once again, thank you so much for bringing these issues. Now I welcome Madam Prachi Dharak to speak on this your topic. You have been made already co-host. You can share the screen. Madam Prachi Dharak. Unmute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
You have been made co-host. You can share the screen.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, please. Good afternoon, one and all, and distinguished guest, Dr. Pradnya Madam, Madam Rachel, Dr. Anil Sharma, and of course, Madam Pratibha Chandekar, Madam, for giving me this opportunity to put forth my views in front of you regarding the challenges in the healthcare delivery system during COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to quote Swami Vivekanand here. The world is a great gymnasium where we come to make ourselves strong. Since last 14 months, we are challenged to deal with the unprecedented events in our lives. And we have all trying to confidently overcome these challenges. Since the beginning of the outbreak, health systems have operated at the front lines, providing care to infected patients, taking steps to ensure the safety of the providers and the staff. Healthcare systems are doing their best to accommodate the surges which is taking place and the demands of the public health. And for this, the frontline workers have worked really. All our speakers have stressed that the nurses and all healthcare providers are working in the frontline. We really have to salute them for their work, what they have done till today. Because of them, we all are safe. The big public, we are safe in the society now. Let's see what are the challenges. I want to highlight some of the health system. Let's see what are the health system, what we delivery system thinks of. It is a system in which the services related to the healthcare deliveries are provided.
Just a second. I will remove okay. Let's understand what are the healthcare delivery system means. It is a system in which the service related healthcare is delivered to the target population. It is the integral part of the government and is responsible for the central authority and is related to its activities with the general conduct of the government affairs. And WHO has described it as a sum total of organizations, institutions, resources whose primary purpose is to improve health. And it should be accessible, efficient, affordable, and of a good quality. And what does it include then? Then the development of health policies, planning, implementation, and regulating of all the healthcare services, and define and develop the institutional framework, how to deliver the health services in the preview of this healthcare system which is available, and also to allocate and mobilize financial and human resources for its proper functioning. So for it requires a proper planning, a proper management, and a delivery of the healthcare services. And what are the key characters? Because we have to understand what are the key characters of the healthcare system, then only we'll understand whether we have worked properly in the pandemic or not, or what are the challenges. It has to be a comprehensive, promotive, preventive, curative, palliative, and rehabilitative. Here we have seen, we will go in details later on whether we have covered all these things while providing care in pandemic. It should be accessible. The coverage should be to the target population who has affected. There should be continuity in the care. The quality of the care should not get affected. It should be very effective. It should be safe and patient-centered. And here you have to be a coordinated director. A well-coordinated and collaborated network is essential to run the proper healthcare system. And it should be accountable and has to be a very efficient in providing healthcare to them. I'm not going to explain this healthcare system, as we all know what is the healthcare system consists of, Indian healthcare system consists of. In the beginning only, Madam Chandekar had said that our healthcare system has two big things, that is a public as well as private. And during pandemic, we have been interconnected with each other. We are collaborating with each other so that a proper healthcare system is developed. A reformed system is given for what we have been challenged, and we are giving the reformed care to the public. In developing nation like India, it is a population is of 1.3 billion. We should not forget that our Indian population is of 1.34 billion. And the existing infrastructure, that is before the pandemic, we were having existing healthcare infrastructure problem was there, and we have facing the healthcare delivery system and facing the challenges of accessibility and affordability. Now in pandemic, what has happened? Again, we have been overwhelmed already with the overburden with the things, with the personal workings and with the healthcare sector. And the past speakers have said that, and we all have experienced the harrowing experiences of the health system, the health professionals which have faced during the pandemic. And this has given us the unprecedented challenges which has been imposed to us to give a safe delivery perspectives. Now I have divided this is what were the unprecedented burdens which were on us while providing care, and what are the ongoing challenges. The first and foremost things, if we see our India, we have got a lot of health disparity and health equity. Already it is existing because of the nature, that is geographical conditions, that is cities and rural area. So the higher concentration of the health is in the cities, we know that. And cities had the good infrastructure, good social strata was there, but the rural were deficient of this. They had outdated healthcare facilities, and there were limitations of transportation and ambulance, because of the lockdown which has been imposed suddenly. So that has caused challenge us to give a proper accessible to the healthcare to the rural area people in the first wave, we can say, or till today also we are facing these limitations. Then secondly is main challenge was to bring together the public private partnership, which was very essential, because to cope up with such a first wave, second wave, and now we are planning for the third wave. So the coordination and collaboration with NGO, with non-governmental organizations, with other sectors is very essential, and it is very challenging for all of us to come together. Second thing, again, the previous speakers has spoke that the creating health awareness is very important, because there are so much Googles are coming, or WhatsApp gurus which are creating the nuisance, and which is affecting what the care the frontline health workers are providing. So creating health awareness among the people, the authentic healthcare awareness is a need of the hour, and that is a biggest challenge which we have to face now also and in future also. Then provision of non-medical support to the society was the biggest challenge in the initial, when the lockdown was inserted on us, imposed on us. That is, food was not available, basic amenities things were not available, and at that time government also and many NGOs came forward and distributed food and transportation because of the migration which was taking place at that time in the first wave I'm talking about. So it was a great challenge. Now also we are facing, there is a bit migration from one state to other state, one district to another district. So we have to be, that is again a challenge we have to. Then came the digitalization of the health. It was a need of the hour. It was a need of the hour to, so that the dashboards were created. It was a challenge for us how we will give the information to the public. So immediately our IT came in front and they created the dashboards to keep the public informed. Now we are having in all the government websites or in Twitters, we are getting the or in Facebook, the availability of the bed, vaccination center, the positivity rate. Though we are not able to provide the care, but we are able to give the information to the public, and this good thing has come up in this pandemic. And again, it is a very challenging to give the information to the public. Then another thing is a disruption of the essential healthcare services, which reduced. The first challenge was that when the COVID cases started coming, we started reducing the cancellation of the non-emergency services, which affected the healthcare of that person. We thought that this is non-emergency, and we didn't give the appropriate care because of lack of staff, because of lack of infrastructure. We didn't have the proper management. But now we have been coming back to the normal in. Then suspension of routine immunization of the children is there, and still the parents are hesitant to come and give the vaccinations to the children, though we have opened up that the health centers may be a root cause of an infection. So partially they are being affected. So it is again a big challenge to call the parents to come and get their children immunized. Family planning services and reduction in the pregnancy related checkups also. These the protocols had been initiated, which made us that to reduce the family planning. So we are not providing the safe reproductive health to the mothers, and that will, the effect of this we will see in the long term. So again, this is a big challenge, forthcoming challenge. How can we deal with the safe reproductive health of the mothers and adolescents? Then relocation of the bed space and staffing pattern. Infrastructure, we have we spoke by the previous speakers regarding the staff, the shortage. Why this shortage came up is that the hospitals were, the whole hospital were transformed into COVID care hospital, COVID care centers, isolation wards, and whole thing was dedicated to the COVID care. So non-COVID cases were diverted, and care was not given. Whatever the existing healthcare force was there, staff was there, again it was diverted. Again, it was a big challenge for the everyone, for the leaders, how to manage this, divide the workforce in COVID care. Again, the staff in the community level, that is A&M, ASHA, all were dedicated to surveillance, testing, tracing, and now in vaccinations. Now the vaccination centers have come up. So, and we have to vaccinate the entire population, 1.35 billion. So see how much task and how much challenge we have in front of us. Then whatever the funds we were there, already the GDP is given to us is nearly less than 2%, and they are saying that they were going to increase to 2.5 by 2025. But whatever the existing funds were there, or whatever the funds we have received, has been again diverted to the COVID care for setting up the jumbo COVID care centers, vaccination centers. Though procuring vaccines, though we are faced a big challenge of limitations in the vaccines, but money is involved in that. A finance is required to get the vaccines how much we needed. So again, that funds are being diverted over there. Medical equipment, shortage of supplies, drugs, which all we have seen, again the funds have been diverted there. But this is the biggest challenge, because we have to have the funds, but all are being diverted to get it, but it takes in the time, and that's why we are facing a big challenge over here. Then recruitment of healthcare workers is again a big challenge, because we want the trained and efficient staff over here. At that time, there was a lot of shortages. We didn't have a proper trained staff in the ICU. If a ventilated cases are there, young students are there, passed out students who were being posted in the ICUs, or who are posted in the COVID care centers, hospitals. So we are finding it difficult to manage the high risk areas like intensive care units. The recruitment is again a big issue, which we will deal with. Again, speakers have been dealt with this. Then development of new protocols was a big challenge to how to manage the COVID care cases, because it is a new thing. We knew there's no cure for COVID. New corona strain, whatever the number of strains are coming up, we don't have any cure. But I feel that we can manage the cases. We are able to manage the cases, and for that we require the protocols and guidelines, and which were given by the ICMRs, by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and they have been giving us, even for mucormycosis, they have released the guidelines, which we are all following it. And for again, this is a challenge. If the guidelines are released, to implement it, it is again taking a time. And we need the facilities. Whatever the facilities are made, again, are there temporary. We don't have the whatever jumbo health centers or whatever have been prepared. They are again the temporary facilities, makeshift facilities are there. So healthcare providers or the frontline workers are facing lot of challenges over here in the jumbo care centers, because that are makeshift hospitals are there, makeshift ICUs are prepared. So lot of challenges are there, and we all, who are working, they know how they are facing it over there. And this has necessitated us to that the training should be there, because the new guidelines are coming, protocols are coming, and this has necessitated us that the training of healthcare workers has said. And naturally, I had discussed with Madam Rachel that now we are thinking, or we are saying that the third wave is coming, which is affecting the which will affect the small children and cases will. So that time we don't have to just attend to the small children, because here adults are coming, we are managing it. But along with the small children, mothers, their parents are going to come. We are not going to isolate the small children from the mothers. So again, that is a huge challenge, how we are going to deal with the mother, with the parent who is in a mental state of accepting it, the child wellness. So this is again a very big challenge for us in the future. Then another main thing was the burden of treatment cost, which was put on the public, which was increased due to out-of-pocket expenditure. There was no control on the cost. Lot of things have been done that patient, and though sir said that the public health system has to be strengthened, though so that the burden of the cost can be reduced from the public, but it was not possible. The poor had for the health get admitted. To save the life of the loving person, they had admitted in the private sector, and the cost was out of control of them. So again, there was a challenge from in front of the government to cost control it, and they tried their best. They cost controlled all the things. They give the streamline how much will be the cost if the patient is admitted in the COVID center, in the hospital, or in the ICU. And so they introduced the medical insurance for the public personals, and now they have introduced the Mahatma Jyotiba Phule Jan Arogya Yojana. So it is again a very good thing that the government is doing things, but again challenge is there in front of us, that the treatment of the treatment cost will go high, and how we are going to manage this in future. Then use of virtual platform and telemedicine is again a big challenge, because it was new to everyone. The home-based care has been initiated, and treatment is given at home. So many of the doctors has used this platform, virtual platform, from WhatsApp and from the telemedicine. They're giving treatment to the non-COVID cases, those who are not able to come to their clinics or to the hospitals. And even the bigger hospitals or the tertiary care hospitals have relocated their OPDs. So the non-COVID cases will not get the proper services. In the first wave, though we couldn't, diversion was there, or their suspension was there. But as the second unlockdown started, that time the relocation of the OPD, outpatient care for the dialysis and all, we had for the chemotherapy, we have started this, and we have nicely we have made it, taken up the challenge, and giving care to these patients also. Then biggest burden on us was the ensuring the safety and security of the healthcare providers, minimizing the infections and minimizing the stress and burnouts among them. So what has to be done was, initially there was shortage of PPE. No doubt there was shortage of PPE, but immediately in India, local vendors, local people came up and started stitching PPEs. So that whatever the shortfalls were there, that were overcome within few months, though initially there was there. Provision of the hostel facilities for the healthcare providers was a big task. There we had faced many things in the society. There was a social discrimination was there. Healthcare workers were not allowed in the houses, their own houses. Even sometimes I heard that even family members had opposed, if a nurse was working, that you stay, see that you can get it. So there was a big what we can say, a mental stress among the everyone. So provision of the hostel facilities, no, though the hostel facilities are made available, but they are of not a good quality. Again, that is a big challenge which we have to face, and see that the good hostel facilities or good residential facilities are provided to the frontline workers. We made the rescheduling of the duty hours. Initially, the 8 hours, it was not possible to be in a PPE kit and give care. So rescheduling of the duty hours was made to reduce the hours in PPE kits. Then the substitute teams were team A, team B. So if the any person from the team got infected and got to be quarantined, then the newer next team came forward. And also prioritization in the vaccination for the frontline health workers is continued till today. And as far as the mental stress and burnout is concerned, a big challenge is here, and it is a new, though it was there since last year, but now it has started been realizing, because now we have seen the mental health stress among the health front care providers, health workers. Now since last month, I think last 1 week, the support system has been initiated. Telecounseling for the frontline workers are given, the toll-free numbers are given. So again, it is a challenge that more of the nurses who are counselors should come forward and take this opportunity, or take this as a challenge, and support the frontline workers in counseling them. Now we have come to the one of the important challenges of the handling of the non-COVID cases and post-COVID care. There is an extra burden. It's a big challenge for us. The extra burden of non-communicable diseases, especially diabetes, hypertension, and heart diseases, and not to forget the mental health services, which are already disrupted. And because medications were not given, I remember one of the case that they were not getting available the medications which was given to that patient. So extra burden has been released, and we will see the effects in long term. These are not short term, but in long terms, we will see the high rise in diabetes, high rise in hypertension and heart diseases. And adding to that, the COVID is not over, which will add to the morbidity and the mortality here. So again, it is a big challenge of us. So we have to curb the diabetes, hypertension, and heart diseases while managing the COVID care. Then there is a high rise will in communicable diseases, mainly tuberculosis, because the tuberculosis draught therapy, which was continued to given, has been suspended, was initially suspended, or the patients were not going and taking the medications. Now, after 1 month, it was streamlined and the medications are given. But again, the migration has affected in the tuberculosis. So if we see now, the cases of tuberculosis have been reduced, but the surge is going to come, and what we have planned that the 2025 will be the reduction in the tuberculosis, our goal. I don't think that we will be able to achieve that, because the surge of tuberculosis may come up. Then comes to children. Children are at risk of vaccine preventable diseases. As I already told you before, that mothers are not coming forward to give their children vaccinations, the preventable diseases vaccinations. So we have to motivate them to come forward. We have to make some arrangements so that we can go at the point of delivery and give them a proper vaccinations to the children. Then there is an increase in malnutrition also among the children, because when the children were coming to Anganwadi or to the primary school, food was given to them, their assessment was done. Now, as the schools are closed, Anganwadis are closed, Balwadis are closed, the increase in malnutrition may be there. Though the arrangements are made to go and give, Ashas and all are working that the food is delivered at the home, but how much that is being given to the children is again a doubtful. So the malnutrition will be rampant, and that if this happens, then the children may get affected with the COVID, and it handling the surge in children, what you just said, maybe this may be the cause of it. Then already I told you that the safe reproductive health has again affected, the family planning is affected. So the maternal health is affected, which may give rise to morbidity and mortality in the maternal health. Pandemic has also highlighted many challenges, emphasis, and it has given us good things also. It has emphasized on the staffing protocol, which is good thing. We didn't had a good protocol. Public has started talking about that good staffing pattern should be there. Nurses should be there. Trained nurses should be available. Efficient nurses. So public is started about talking it. So it is a good thing. Then great attention is again required for the work and life balance, particularly the healthcare female workers. We have to balance our life, and counseling is required for them. Again, this is a challenge. Most of the staff are employed are on contractual basis. They are not permanent. So, and we are in need of a different cadres in the government sector and also in the private sector. So it is a challenge to employ them permanently and remove the shortage, whatever it is available. Then shortage of the staff is also because of there is less of new nursing personnel are coming up. So investment in the nursing education is again a biggest challenge, and that is been identified by our leaders. Then social discrimination and workplace violence is there, and we have faced it initially, and still now the surge is less, but initially it was too much. The social discrimination, it was a big challenge for us to face and provide strength to the frontline workers. Providing peer support system, we have to start with the peer support system and give support to our colleagues. Recognition and reward should be given, so that whatever the frontline workers have done, their work has to be recognized for a long term and should be rewarded. Nursing education has been challenged, though it comes as a part of a healthcare system. It has been challenged. Virtual education started. Clinical fields or rotations was suspended. The students first year and second year were not sent, but final year students were sent to the non-COVID areas and continued with the COVID care centers also. And also now they are posted in vaccination centers, quarantine centers, field work. So young nurses took part in the COVID, and that is highly appreciable. Skill labs training, the virtual this thing is coming up, and it will be a good thing, I think, for the education system, that artificial nursing intelligence coming in the nursing education. So these are the something lastly I want to point out, that the pandemic has exposed a number of problems in the healthcare system, and COVID-19 will be ongoing global pandemic, and it has affecting the all levels of healthcare system, that start from the subcenter level to the tertiary care health center. The most thing what I feel is that the law employed in the ongoing crisis was the Epidemic Disease Act, which was formulated in 1887, and the Disaster Management Act 2005, that is DMA. Unfortunately, neither of these constitutes an effective legal framework for public health emergency preparedness and response. These are very old acts, and it has to be reformed, and a new act should be come forward. So there is a need for a strong healthcare system and a PHE, that is preparedness for the public health emergencies legislation. And I feel that the leaders from all sectors, from political, from profession, all professionals should come together and have to explore how this pandemic era challenges and innovations are there, will provide our healthcare systems with an opportunity to reform and to transform care delivery to become more accessible, more efficient, more equitable for all, while fostering the preparedness for the future public health emergencies. Last but not the least, I would like to salute all the COVID martyrs and thank you for putting yourself in the way of danger to save others, to save the public. This is what means to be a hero. This is what it means to build a beautiful legacy. Thank you for all, for everything you have done. So thank you. Thank you, madam, for giving me this opportunity to put forth my views on challenges which we are facing or going to face in future in related to pandemic. Thank you, madam. Thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Prachi. Can you stop sharing your screen, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, absolutely. You really summed up the entire topic, and all speakers did excellent justice to the topic. And then we saw that there is absolutely the point that you said, there should be a coordination between the public and the private sector, right? Absolutely. And the lot of things which you said, many things are repeated. I'm not going to mention it. But then, as you said, mental health, every speaker mentioned mental health is a big issue. And counseling is really a need. And our college, the mental health nursing department, in the psychiatric OPD, there is a counseling center, one unit we have taken, and between 11 a.m., 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., my faculty are sitting there for counseling, and we have requested matron madam and medical superintendent and even other OPDs, if they have any cases, even healthcare frontline workers, all can come and avail this counseling services. So something, some contribution towards the situation, the pandemic situation, we can do it. And you have done excellent job. Thank you so much for nice presentation, and especially the point which you brought out, that is the legal aspect. The act which is old, and we need to make some amendments, and which should match to the present situation. And I hope Public Health Department and the Center Cabinet take note of this and think. And then we need to really be prepared for the coming pandemics or epidemics, and the contributions from the nursing will be really appreciated. Thank you so much once again on behalf of Dr. Vittalrao Vikhe Patil Foundation, College of Nursing. I'm extremely sorry for the delay, but still all participants joined And till last now, more than 94 participants are still there after 2 hours. So that shows, and many in the chat box I saw, the topic is really important, and that's why to listen to all the experts, people had stayed. That shows that really this topic was important of to be noted. Okay, once again, thank you so much to all. And the YouTube, only the last speaker people could see, but then we have recorded, and this will be uploaded in the YouTube. So please inform all your friends and colleagues if they were not able to see the entire presentation. But we have done the recording, and this will be uploaded in near short time, and then we will share the link of the YouTube. Thank you so much once again. So thank you.